My pressure passing has always been a liability in my jiu-jitsu game. However, after receiving a detail from popular hip-hop artist Rida, my pressure passing finally found the gem it needed, and with it, I could most definitely pass the guard of Gordon Ryan. If you can give me your full attention for the next 6 minutes, I'll show you how you can do it too and become the guard passing king of your BJJ gym. And if you don't believe me now, at the end of the video, I'll take it into a live round, testing it out in real time against a judo brown belt. So before I reveal this grand detail that I got from Rida, let me tell you the problem that I was having that led me to needing this detail. See, I've been developing the technique of camp passing. Camp passing is essentially using a hip and knee post to continuously wear down your opponent's stamina and guard over time. The two biggest issues I faced when attempting this pass was I either wasn't applying slashing pressure, which we covered in the last video, or I wasn't attacking the highly successful and dominant position of low camp. What is low camp? Low camp is basically the near distance option of camping. It's a pseudo body lock position focused on flattening your opponent's shoulders and pinning their hips to the mat. And instead of spinning around your opponent like a record baby, we drop down and get low into a super advantageous position. And that is the magical detail that I learned from Rida. My new methodology for passing is to obviously achieve either side control or north-south, but now we also have a reliable option to drop into a low pass, giving us a more concrete path to the guard pass, being able to now chest match our opponent with a heavy advantage. So do what Rida is telling you to do and drop that ass to the floor. Now, how do we play this position? I like to attack low camp as a counter to my opponent facing their hips into me. As we covered in the last video, ideally the hips are facing away, but in the scenario where our opponent turns into us, we gain access to low camp. Now there's a lot of details that go into this, so stick with me here. My left hand is gripping his spine, my left elbow is clamping down against his hip, my right hand is gripping his ribs, and my right elbow is prying down on his thigh, opening up that knee. The other details that are essential to this position is head in the center of their stomach, making sure it's not too far to the left or right where you can get off balanced. Our inside knee is pinning their heel to their butt, and our outside leg acts as a kickstand to maintain balance. For a better idea, let's take a look at this match with Nicky Rod. To begin, Nick will move his leg so that it's pressing his opponent's foot to their butt, in turn moving both legs to the outside of the guard. He'll then step over his opponent's knee, connecting his knee to elbow. This will prevent his opponent from bringing his knee back and being able to turn into him. And then to finish, he'll kick his left leg back, placing it directly onto his opponent's hip line. Now the only difference we're going to be using is wedge grips instead of the body lock. And we'll look more into that as we get into the live round. But first let's recap and set our goals for the role. To redefine low camp, it's a pressure-based pass focused on pinning the hips and flattening the shoulders, limiting movement, and giving you a stronger advantage to pass the guard. We use this as a counter to our opponent facing their hips into us, maintaining control of the inside space. With our ideas now sorted, let's move on to face Davi, a Jiu-Jitsu blue belt and Judo brown belt with some wild momentum counters. Okay, so something I want to mention just going off the bat is Davi is one of the most defensive players here at Match Chess. He's basically like the Earth Eagle of blue belts. So we're really going to put my camping passing to the test and see what it can do against Davi here. So immediately as we get going, I'm putting him to his back and I start attacking the camp position. But one thing with Davi is he's really hard to pass going around the guard, hence why I'm so critical about implementing the low pass into my game. Now there's actually a really interesting detail that I'm going to use here, and I'd rather save it for a separate video, but I want to give you guys a little sneak peek. So if you didn't know about it, you probably wouldn't notice it, but I'm going to take my left hand and weave it inside. And this is very specific because as Davi goes to throw his high leg over, I can easily switch off to a thigh drag. And this is a big deal for guard passers because it allows us to continue our sequence without having to stop and reset. Now as soon as I get to side control, Davi is immediately bridging and rolling me over, nearly putting me on bottom, but I'll manage to scoop him back over. And after getting into north-south, using my underhook, I spin over to attack the armbar. However, big body Davi is not taking this lightly, and even though I'm pulling as hard as I can, he's going to power through it, and then he'll actually start attacking my legs. Now it's okay, we don't have to cry. To me, as someone that would describe themselves as a guard passer in Jiu-Jitsu, we have to be able to learn how to deal with leg entanglements, and this is probably the best piece of knowledge I can pass on to you that can instantly improve your leg lock defense. So as Davi is trying to attack the inside heel hook, I always want to make sure my heel is facing his ribs and my toes are pointed outward. Another place you'll find yourself commonly if you're guard passer is single leg X. The way I like to deal with the guard is by peeling this foot off of my hip. Then for the key detail, there's almost a 90% chance that as I peel the foot off, Davi is going to transfer an X guard. If we can time that right and backstep as he goes to put the foot between my legs, we get into this position where he no longer has connection to us, so we can easily high step out of the guard. But now with the round on the verge of ending, it's now or never, and we have to get this guard pass. I guess you could say it's
going down for it.
Alright, so we've been trying everything to pass Davi, and even when we did in technicality, if we hadn't gotten lucky at the very end, this would probably be his highlight tape. But we have enough time for one last attempt. And with Davi presenting such a hard obstacle to pass on the outside, it's time that I switch up my strategy. Now at the beginning of the sequence, I had his hips facing away, but Davi being the great defensive player that he is, he manages to turn his hips back into us, and this is where low camp comes in to shine. We have all the necessary points of pressure: hand under the spine, elbow clamping down on the hip, head in the center, and knee pinching his bottom leg to his butt. The idea behind this is the hand on the spine and the head in the center is keeping your weight down onto Davi and keeping you balanced. Your elbow clamping on the hip and knee pinching on the foot is preventing him from shrimping away by not allowing his hips to get outside of your shoulder. For my final shot at passing his guard, I'm gonna connect my knee and elbow over his leg. Now with this wall being built around his hip line, watch my next move carefully as my head shifts far over his torso. My right hand will then grab his shoulder and I'll flare my elbow into his face. And so with these details and the help of low camp, I finally passed Davi's guard. And so I hope I was able to provide some useful information. If I did, do me a favor and hit the like button for me and consider subscribing to see more content like this. Let me know what you guys want to see next in the comments below. And also, if you're still having trouble figuring out the camping mechanics, you should definitely 100% go watch my camping progression series video where I break down my 4 missions when attacking the camp guard pass. This is my new style, and in my opinion, it is the strongest outside guard passing mechanic, and we just learned that we can also transfer it into a tight pass as well. So definitely go check that out. Thank you guys for watching. Now go pass some guards.